The night has erased the horizon. Sea and sky have become one black surface, broken only when pale water rises beside the ship and falls across its low wooden side. Cold spray strikes the crew. It runs over cloaks, sleeves, hands, and faces. Water gathers between the planks beneath them. Rope stiffens under wet fingers, and the sail moves against the darkness with a deep, uneven strain. There is nowhere warm to go. No heated cabin waits below the deck. No permanent stove burns behind a closed door. There is no door. Wind can reach the crew from almost every direction. The low side offers little defense when spray rises above it. Work, rest, equipment, and supplies all share the same exposed interior, and any temporary shelter must coexist with the sail, oars, steering, and constant movement of human bodies. The vessel is open to the weather, its crew crowded among ropes, sailcloth, tools, and provisions. The nearest protection may be a strip of coast hidden somewhere beyond the night. They cannot simply stop moving and wait for morning. A ship under sail still demands attention. Water must be removed. Lines must be controlled. The sail must be adjusted as the wind changes. Someone must watch the sea ahead, though darkness has reduced it to sound and motion. The familiar Viking ship is often seen from a distance. A curved prow. A striped sail. A clean line of shields. It appears fast, powerful, almost effortless as it crosses the water. But from inside the vessel, on a cold northern night, the heroic outline disappears. There is only wet wood beneath the body. Wind reaching every exposed space. Salt water finding the opening between glove and sleeve, cloak and neck, shoe and ankle. The greatest danger is not visible. It does not approach with weapons. It is exposure. Cold air alone is difficult enough. Add wind, wet clothing, exhaustion, and water drawn from a northern sea, and the body can lose heat far faster. The crew cannot bargain with that loss. They can only slow it. A fire seems like the obvious answer. But where would it burn? On land, flame offers warmth, light, hot food, and a place around which exhausted people can gather. Aboard a crowded vessel in motion, the same flame must be protected from wind and spray while kept away from sailcloth, ropes, supplies, and the wooden hull beneath it. The ship is wooden. Sailcloth rises above it. Ropes cross the working space. People sit close together with equipment packed wherever room can be found. An exposed flame could damage what keeps the vessel moving, or the vessel itself. Smoke and sparks would be difficult to control on a ship rolling in darkness. This does not mean that no Viking Age sailor ever produced a flame aboard any vessel under any condition. The evidence is not complete enough for that certainty. But an open warship did not offer an ordinary heated interior comparable to a later enclosed ship. There was no safe, permanent room where the entire crew could gather around a stove. So what kept them alive? Not some natural immunity to cold. Not bodies built from a different kind of flesh. The people aboard experienced numbness, exhaustion, fear, pain, and physical limits as humans always have. Some voyages ended in injury, exposure, shipwreck, or death. Their achievement was not that cold could not harm them. It was that generations of maritime experience had taught them how to resist it through many small decisions. Wool beneath an outer covering. Animal skins prepared before departure. A folded shelter secured among the equipment. Food protected from spray. Rowers changing places before stillness became dangerous. A leader watching the coast as carefully as the sail. Each clue appears small. Together, they form something larger. The most important protection from the cold may not have been heat itself. The ship rises over another wave. Several crew members brace against the wet boards as spray passes over the side. Those nearest the water receive the worst of it. A rower pulling hard creates warmth through movement. Someone waiting to take his place may cool while sitting still. Another position may demand alertness while offering little chance to move. The coldest place on the ship is not necessarily one fixed plank. It follows the work. Duties may have been rotated so that the same people did not remain exposed or inactive for too long. The exact routines are not preserved, and there was probably no single system shared by every crew. But the practical demands of an open vessel suggest that endurance depended upon organization. A lone person could not solve the problem. The crew survived, or failed, as a group. The condition of one person affected everyone else. A crew member who became too exhausted or cold could no longer pull effectively at an oar, control a line, remove water, or respond quickly when the ship changed direction. The remaining crew then carried more work at the moment when their own strength was already being tested. Near the center of the vessel, a long folded covering lies secured among the supplies. Later written and poetic sources describe tents or coverings associated with ships, though their exact Viking Age construction and use remain uncertain. Could such a covering be raised while sailing? Was it more useful at anchor? How much of the crew could fit beneath it without interfering with the sail or steering? For now, it remains folded. Its presence is only another sign that someone prepared for exposure before the ship left land. The same is true of the clothing darkened by spray. Wool remained valuable in damp conditions, but it was not magical. Linen, wool, leather, caps, outer garments, and skins could form protective layers. Some skins were treated to improve their resistance to rain and sea spray. No garment was perfectly waterproof. Water still found its way through wear, openings, and prolonged exposure. But every layer could delay the loss of heat. Again, the question is changing. The crew may never become comfortably warm. The task is to prevent discomfort from becoming collapse. Somewhere among the equipment, food is kept as protected from water as the ship allows. Cold and physical work place a heavy burden on the body, and ruined provisions could become as dangerous as damaged rope. The person directing the vessel turns toward the darkness where the coast should be. A knowledgeable leader does not watch only the sail and waves. The unseen shape of land matters too. A protected shore could change the situation completely. But tonight, land has not yet been reached. The covering remains folded. The provisions remain secured. The rowers continue changing places. The vessel presses forward through black water. This is the central contradiction of Viking seafaring. These ships were capable of remarkable journeys, yet many offered little enclosed protection to the people making those journeys possible. The sea demanded speed, flexibility, and vessels capable of moving under both sail and oar. Those qualities often left the crew exposed. A longship was generally low, narrow, and fast, suited to rowing, warfare, and rapid movement along coasts and rivers. Its form carried a large crew close to the water, with limited room for rest or shelter. A cargo vessel such as a nar was broader and deeper. It could carry more supplies and was better suited to transporting heavy loads across longer distances. But broader did not mean comfortable. Neither vessel should be imagined as a warm, enclosed ship with private sleeping spaces. The type of vessel changed exposure, movement, and storage, but did not remove the cold. And not every Viking Age voyage used the same kind of ship. The word longship cannot describe the entire maritime world. Nor can one voyage stand for all the others. Still, the basic problem remained recognizable. Open construction. Limited space. Cold water. Wind. Human bodies that needed protection. There was no clean division between the place where the crew worked and the place where it rested. The crew rested where it worked. When sleep was possible, it happened among the tools and materials of sailing, inside the same exposed structure carrying everyone through the waves. The ship does not merely transport the crew through the weather. The crew carries the weather with it. Moisture remains in clothing and equipment. Cold follows each person from one duty to the next. No change of position creates a truly dry room. This is why heating the whole ship may be the wrong way to understand survival. The crew cannot make the northern sea warm. It can control smaller things. What covers the body? How much wind reaches it? How long someone remains inactive? Whether essential supplies stay protected. Whether the vessel continues or searches for land. No single decision solves the problem. Together, they slow the rate at which danger grows. The surviving evidence for the details remains incomplete. Archaeological ship finds preserve hulls, construction methods, tools, and sometimes traces of cargo. Written accounts and later Norse sources offer glimpses shaped by their own purposes and by the centuries through which they were transmitted. Experimental archaeology adds another kind of evidence. Replica voyages reveal where water collects, which positions receive the most wind and spray, how difficult rest becomes, and how much continuous labor an open vessel demands. They allow historians to test physical problems that written sources describe only imperfectly. But modern participants do not automatically become Viking Age sailors by stepping onto a replica. Their clothing, expectations, safety equipment, and knowledge belong to another world. Experiments can illuminate the problem. They cannot reproduce every historical decision or practice with certainty. What the combined evidence provides is a careful outline. Viking Age crews used open vessels in harsh northern conditions. They lacked a normal permanently heated cabin. They relied upon preparation, material protection, coordinated labor, and decisions made before exhaustion became irreversible. The night continues. The ship rises again, but this time the wave passes beneath without breaking over the side. The brief absence of spray feels like relief. Then the wind changes. The sail loses its steady shape and fills again from another angle. Crew members shift their weight. A line is tightened. The person controlling the vessel turns once more toward the unseen coast. The night has not become warmer. But the crew begins to change how it faces the cold. The folded covering is brought forward. Hands find its edges and prepare the lines that may secure it above part of the ship. It will not create a heated cabin. It may not cover everyone. Its use must be balanced against the work of sailing. Another crew member checks the protected supplies. The rowers change places. The most tired move away from the worst exposure while others take their positions. Separate actions are becoming one coordinated response. Wool. Treated skin. Food. Movement. Temporary shelter. Shared work. None is enough alone. Together, they begin creating something the ship itself does not contain. A small human boundary against the sea. If the Vikings could not make the ship warm, how did they build a layer of protection between the human body and the sea? The folded covering moves forward through the ship. Hands search for its edges in the darkness. Wet rope passes from one crew member to another. Fingers stiffened by cold struggle with knots that would have been simple on land. The vessel does not stop moving for them. It rises, settles, and turns beneath their feet. The material catches the wind before it is controlled, pulling hard enough to make several people brace against the benches. Some continue handling the sail and steering. Others lower the covering without allowing it to become another sail. Slowly, one section of the ship disappears beneath it. The result is not a roof in any comfortable sense. The material hangs low. Its edges shift with the vessel. Spray still enters through openings, and those beneath it must sit among baggage, equipment, and other bodies. It does not create warmth. It removes part of the wind. That is enough for the first change to be felt. The air remains cold, but it no longer moves across the skin with the same force. The sound of sail and water becomes slightly duller. Several exhausted crew members settle shoulder to shoulder beneath the covering. No flame burns between them. Their warmth comes from bodies, clothing, trapped air, and the absence of the strongest gusts. The ship is still exposed. But within it, a smaller space has been created. One crew member pulls his clothing tightly around his neck. Water has entered beneath an outer edge, and every opening gives the wind another path inward. He closes the gap at his wrists, draws his cloak across his chest, and tightens the layers around his waist. These movements reveal the first part of the system. Clothing does not create heat. The body does. Layers slow its escape. A Viking Age sailor did not need modern scientific language to recognize the difference between loose clothing and garments secured against the wind. Experience taught which materials remained useful after spray reached them and which arrangements failed first. There was no universal Viking uniform. Clothing varied with region, season, wealth, occupation, and voyage. Linen may have been worn closer to the body, with woolen tunics, trousers, cloaks, coats, or caps forming outer layers. Wool remained useful when damp. Not perfectly warm. Not safe through unlimited exposure. But useful. It could continue holding some warmth near the body after moisture entered, while fabric pressed flat against the skin offered less protection. Once thoroughly soaked, however, wool became heavy, uncomfortable, and increasingly dangerous. It did not defeat the cold. It gave the wearer more time. Leather, fur, and animal skins could form another barrier. Some skins were treated with fats, oils, or wax to improve their resistance to spray and rain. These were not sealed modern garments. Water could still enter through seams, openings, wear, and prolonged exposure. Yet an outer layer could block wind even when it did not remain perfectly dry. Wool held warmth close to the body. Denser material slowed the moving air that carried that warmth away. Together, they worked better than either alone. Near the edge of the protected space, a younger crew member has left part of his shoulder exposed where the outer covering has shifted. An older sailor notices. There is no formal lesson. He reaches across, pulls the material into place, and tightens it where the wind had been entering. The action lasts only a moment. The younger sailor feels the difference. Knowledge passes without explanation. Cold water also gathers near the feet, moving across the boards as the ship rises and falls. Leather footwear and wrapped inner material may delay the cold, but water trapped against the body slowly defeats that protection. When conditions allow, damp material can be adjusted and feet moved away from the worst water. The exact practices varied. The principle did not. Every neglected opening gave the sea another way in. Another gust strikes the covering. The material holds. Beneath it, shoulders press together. Damp wool releases faint moisture into the warmer air around the gathered bodies. Salt dries along hair and beards. Hands disappear briefly beneath cloaks. Drops travel across the underside of the shelter. Some fall. Others run toward the edge. The crew is not comfortable. It is losing warmth more slowly. A cold, calm period can sometimes be easier to endure than a wetter night with constant wind. Temperature alone does not decide the danger. Water weakens clothing, and moving air strips away the warmth trapped near the skin. The covering changes neither the sea nor the night. It interrupts that process. The Vikings are not defeating the northern water. They are slowing it down. The shelter itself remains historically uncertain. Later medieval and poetic sources mention tents or coverings associated with ships, and reconstructed vessels have used temporary shelters to test what such protection might provide. But their exact Viking Age construction, placement, and use cannot be established for every ship or voyage. A covering may have been easier to use at anchor, while drifting safely, or when sailing conditions were steady. It could not always remain raised during heavy rowing or difficult maneuvers. It had to coexist with the mast, sail, ropes, oars, steering, cargo, and crew. The wind changes again. One side pulls loose and begins beating against its line. A crew member crawls toward it while others hold the material down. The edge is tightened. Another section is lowered to keep the steering space clear. The shelter becomes smaller. It still works. Protection must be constantly negotiated against the operation of the vessel. Beneath the low material, several people attempt to rest. They do not have private beds or a separate sleeping chamber. When conditions permit, folded cloth, spare wool, skins, cloaks, baggage, benches, or any available surface may support the body. The arrangement depends upon the vessel, the cargo, the number of people, and the weather. Rest does not need to be comfortable. It needs to be enough. The whole crew cannot sleep together. A smaller group works while others recover beneath limited protection. Later, they exchange places. Those who have faced the strongest spray move inward. Those who have rested return to the exposed positions. The rotation distributes labor. It also distributes cold. A person left too long at the edge may lose the coordination needed to grip an oar or manage a line. Once that happens, the rest of the crew must carry more work while their own strength is already declining. A coordinated group can act earlier. Someone takes the line. Food is passed forward. The exhausted person moves beneath the covering. The system does not require perfect harmony. Fatigue can bring impatience, mistakes, and resistance. A sailor may believe he can continue after his movements have begun to slow. Others may notice first. A knot taking too long. An oar moving out of rhythm. Fingers no longer closing properly around rope. The crew survives not because every individual is endlessly strong, but because exposure can be shared before one person fails completely. Movement provides temporary heat. Rowing, hauling rope, adjusting the sail, shifting cargo, and removing water all force the muscles to work. But work creates another danger. Too little movement allows the body to cool. Too much produces sweat, dampens inner clothing, and consumes strength that may be needed later. A rower leaves his position warmer than the person replacing him. His body is producing heat, but moisture has gathered beneath his outer layers. If he sits immediately in the wind, that warmth can disappear quickly. Instead, he moves beneath the shelter. His clothing is adjusted. Food is placed in his hand. He sits close to others while the heat produced by work is preserved for as long as possible. The crew would not have described this through modern physiology. Experience taught the sequence. Work. Protection. Food. Rest. Then work again. Movement helps only when effort is not wasted. Organization turns necessary labor into temporary warmth without allowing exhaustion to consume the crew. A protected container is opened beneath the covering. The food inside is simple, perhaps dried fish, preserved meat, bread, cheese, or another durable provision suited to travel. Different crews carried different supplies. Tonight, what matters is that the food survived the spray. A piece passes from one hand to another. It is cold, hard, and plain. There is no steaming meal waiting beneath the shelter. Still, it matters. Cold and physical work demand energy. A hungry sailor becomes slower, less coordinated, and less able to make decisions. His weakness becomes another burden shared by the vessel. Fire may have been possible under safer circumstances, particularly ashore or when conditions allowed careful control. But a large heating flame could not simply burn throughout a difficult passage among sailcloth, rope, supplies, moving bodies, and wooden planks. The question is not whether any Viking sailor ever produced fire aboard a ship. It is how crews endured when dependable heating was unavailable. Near the food, another crew member checks a wrapped bundle. Its outer surface is wet. Inside, a layer remains mostly usable. It may contain clothing, bedding material, tools, fire-making equipment, or provisions that cannot be allowed to soak completely. The bundle is closed and moved toward a more protected position. This small success began before the coldest moment. Someone wrapped it while conditions were easier. Someone decided where to place it. Someone resisted opening it unnecessarily. A ship cannot remain dry. Protection is a matter of degree. Coverings shift. Containers leak. Spray reaches places thought safe. Yet one usable layer preserved for later may matter more than a larger supply already soaked. Preparedness begins before every option disappears. The people beneath the shelter move closer together. There is nothing ceremonial in it. Shoulders press against shoulders because shared body heat reduces the area exposed to moving air. Cloaks overlap. Gaps close. The protected space smells of wet wool, leather, salt, simple food, and tired bodies. The sea remains audible through the material above them. For a short time, the crew has created a different atmosphere within the ship. One younger sailor begins trembling more strongly. His fingers no longer adjust his clothing with the same control. He does not make a dramatic complaint, but the people near him notice that his movements have changed. They move him away from the exposed edge. Additional material is placed around his shoulders. Food is put into his hands. Someone remains close enough to observe whether he responds. They do not possess modern medical knowledge. They do not need it to recognize that confusion, silence, clumsy fingers, or failing coordination can signal danger. The most important protection is not heroic toughness. It is noticing when another person is beginning to fail. If the sailor recovers, he may work again later. If he is ignored, the crew may lose both a person and the labor that person provides. Care and necessity become part of the same decision. This small world of warmth also changes with the vessel carrying it. A long, low warship places many people along exposed rowing positions and is designed for speed, shallow draft, and rapid movement. A broader cargo vessel such as a nar can carry more supplies, equipment, and sometimes animals. Its deeper hull offers different possibilities for storage and temporary protection. But broader does not mean warm. A cargo vessel remains exposed to northern weather, and a heavier load creates its own demands. Survival depends upon the ship, the people aboard, the cargo, the route, the season, and the distance from land. There was no single Viking experience at sea. For this crew, the covering is holding. Some rest beneath it. Others continue working. Food has been shared. Outer layers have been tightened. Protected bundles remain mostly dry. The ship has not become warm. Instead, the crew preserves small pockets of warmth, around individual bodies, beneath layered clothing, inside wrapped materials, and between people gathered behind temporary shelter. No single layer is enough. Wool without protection eventually soaks. Food without careful storage can be ruined. Shelter without people able to secure it becomes another danger. Movement without rest leads toward exhaustion. Rest without rotation leaves others exposed for too long. The system works because its parts support one another. By the final watch of the night, the crew has found a rhythm. Those beneath the covering recover enough to return to exposed work. Those at the oars and lines rotate inward. Food is shared before weakness becomes obvious. The small world of warmth moves from person to person. No one keeps it permanently. Then the wind strengthens. The covering pulls hard enough to lift one edge. Two crew members catch it before it tears free, while another moves a line away from the steering position. For a moment, the protected space almost disappears. Then the material settles. The balance returns. But everyone aboard understands its limits. One torn rope could end it. One breaking wave could soak the space they have defended. Too many hours could consume every advantage they have created. Clothing, food, movement, and cooperation explain how a crew might endure longer than an unprepared group. They do not make severe exposure harmless. Another form of protection lies beyond the covering. The person directing the vessel still watches the darkness. Not only for waves. For the hidden shape of land. The crew had built a small world of warmth, but it could survive only for a limited time. Beyond the covering, the sea was still cold, the wind was still searching for every opening, and the nearest coast remained hidden in darkness. Clothing could slow the loss of heat. Food could replace some of the energy. Movement and shared shelter could carry the crew through another watch. But none of them could make an exposed ship safe forever. So perhaps the final secret of Viking survival was not found aboard the ship at all. Perhaps it began with knowing when the coldest sea should never be crossed. The darkness begins to change. Not into daylight. Not yet. At first, the difference is carried through the water. The waves lose some of their long, open movement, as though something beyond the darkness is interrupting them. The person steering notices. A faint shape appears against the sky, vanishes when the vessel falls between waves, then returns. A headland. Birds are heard somewhere ahead. The water sounds different near the hidden shore. Shelter may be close. Safety is not. Between the ship and the coast may lie rocks, shallows, breaking waves, or a narrow entrance made dangerous by the current. Land can protect a crew, but it can also destroy a vessel driven toward it without control. The temporary covering must come down. Those resting beneath it return to the cold. Hands loosen the lines, fold the wet material away, and clear space for oars and steering. The small shelter that helped them endure the open water disappears as greater protection comes into view. They surrender temporary comfort to reach land. The sail is adjusted. The vessel turns toward the faint outline. This moment reveals the final part of the survival system. The voyage did not begin when the hull left the beach. It began earlier, while people stood on land and decided whether the ship should leave at all. Viking Age sailors had no modern weather forecasts. They watched the direction and strength of the wind, the movement of clouds, the condition of the sea, the available daylight, and the seasonal patterns of familiar coasts. Such knowledge was imperfect. Weather could change without warning. But observation offered more than chance. A loaded ship might remain on shore because the wind was wrong. Sailors could wait for hours or days while cargo stayed covered and experienced eyes returned repeatedly to the sky. Delay brought its own pressure. Merchants lost time. A military expedition could lose surprise. Urgency, politics, limited provisions, or competition might encourage a dangerous departure. Viking leaders were not always cautious. Yet waiting was not weakness. It was seamanship. Sometimes the most important decision of a voyage was refusing to begin it. The Viking ship has become an image of constant movement through a frozen world. Real travel was more practical. Many voyages benefited from seasons with longer daylight, more manageable weather, and better chances of approaching land. That does not mean winter sailing never occurred, or that every important journey happened in summer. Necessity could place ships at sea in harsh months. And northern water remained dangerous outside winter. Cold spray, fog, hard wind, and sudden storms required no snow or floating ice. Sensible sailors did not deliberately seek the worst conditions merely to prove their toughness. When circumstances allowed, they used favorable windows. Their endurance depended partly upon knowing when endurance should not be tested. The ship approaches the headland. The person steering searches for an opening, perhaps one remembered from an earlier journey or described by someone who knew this coast. When geography allowed, ships could travel with land nearby. Headlands, islands, bays, river mouths, and recognizable slopes helped crews understand their position. Land also offered possible recovery. A long route could be divided into shorter passages. A crew might sail while the wind was useful, enter protected water, rest, and continue when conditions improved. But coastal travel was never harmless. Rocks could remain hidden beneath the surface. Shallows trapped loaded vessels. Local currents moved unexpectedly through narrow entrances, while breaking waves left little room to correct a mistake. The headland now fills more of the horizon. The sail is reduced. Oars enter the water. Someone watches the surface ahead for the first sign of submerged stone. Beyond the dark projection of land, the water appears calmer. The crew must reach it without allowing the shore to become another danger. Navigation was probably never one technique. When visible, the sun and stars offered direction. Wind, waves, currents, birds, landmarks, and the character of coastal water supplied other clues. None was perfect alone. The greater knowledge lived within people. A difficult current could be described to another crew. A headland seen once could be remembered. The entrance to a safe bay could become part of a mental route shared among sailors, traders, and coastal communities. Later texts and modern experiments have raised the possibility that certain crystals might help locate the sun in particular conditions, but routine Viking Age use remains uncertain. No single instrument explains their navigation. Accumulated observation does. Route knowledge reduced the time a crew remained exposed. It helped sailors reach shelter before clothing, food, strength, and temporary covering ceased to be enough. Protection aboard the ship bought time. Navigation determined whether that time led anywhere. Not every voyage could remain near land. Routes toward Iceland, Greenland, and other North Atlantic destinations required crews to leave the coast behind. Once the horizon emptied, immediate shelter disappeared. Season, departure conditions, the vessel, the load, provisions, route knowledge, and the experience of the crew became more important. A crossing with useful wind was different from one delayed by repeated poor weather. Several days of rain and limited rest could transform even a capable vessel into a place of growing danger. The methods used aboard extended the time people could remain functional. They did not make open water safe. Clothing and shelter bought hours. Navigation had to turn those hours into landfall. The ship passes behind the headland. The wind remains, but the waves become smaller. Their open rise is replaced by an uneven movement within protected water. The crew stays alert. Darkness can still conceal rocks and shallows. The sail is lowered further, and the vessel moves toward the inner shore. Here, the question of fire becomes clearer. Fire was not completely absent from Viking seafaring. Small flames, lamps, embers, or controlled cooking arrangements may have been possible in particular vessels and conditions. But crews could not depend upon a large, permanent heating fire during rough sailing. The ship was wooden. Sailcloth, rope, clothing, coverings, and cargo could burn. Wind could spread sparks, spray could extinguish the flame, and smoke beneath a low shelter created another hazard. Fire also required protected space that sailors needed for working the vessel. The practical answer is not that Vikings never produced flame at sea. It is that their survival system had to function when dependable heating was unavailable. Fire became far more useful once they reached shore. The keel enters shallow water. Several crew members guide the vessel while others protect supplies and keep the hull under control. Only when it is secured do they begin moving equipment onto land. There is no triumphant arrival. They are too tired. A modest fire is built where rocks or terrain block part of the wind. Fuel is gathered, and a small flame begins to hold. Wet garments are placed near enough to dry gradually, but not close enough to scorch. Hands remain stiff. Warmth returns slowly. Food can now be heated or cooked if supplies allow. Ropes, sailcloth, and tools are inspected. Anything weakened during the crossing is prepared for repair. For the first time that night, warmth comes from something beyond their own bodies. The moment is quiet. The flame did not carry them across the sea. Their decisions carried them to the flame. Known landing places formed part of the wider survival system. Harbors, beaches, islands, farms, river mouths, and sheltered anchorages could divide a long route into stages. Sail. Land. Rest. Repair. Wait. Continue. Not every coast was friendly. A protected bay might belong to people who saw the crew as traders, strangers, rivals, or enemies. Choosing land could therefore be a political decision as well as a geographical one. Still, knowledge of usable stops reduced continuous exposure. It turned a single dangerous journey into a chain of smaller ones. Modern replica voyages help reveal how important those pauses could be. Reconstructed ships show how exposed crews become, how demanding steering and rowing can be, and how quickly rain and changing weather alter the journey. But modern sailors may have forecasts, communication equipment, emergency support, safety procedures, and reconstructed gear based upon incomplete evidence. Experiments reveal practical possibilities and limits. They cannot reproduce one universal Viking Age method. They also cannot erase the failures. Some ships never reached their destination. A storm could arrive too quickly. Direction could be lost. A vessel could be damaged or reach a coast it could not safely approach. The methods described here improved the chances of survival. They never guaranteed it. Sometimes the only sign of failure was an expected sail that never appeared. An empty place remained on the horizon. That absence corrects the heroic image more powerfully than any legend. The Vikings did not survive because cold could not harm them. They survived when many decisions worked together. Clothing and outer protection slowed heat loss. Temporary shelter and rotation gave exhausted people time to recover. Food and protected supplies preserved strength and future options. Season and route reduced unnecessary exposure. Knowledge of wind, water, and coastlines helped crews locate shelter. Land offered controlled fire, repair, rest, and the possibility of continuing. None of these methods was miraculous. Their power came from connection. The popular Viking stands alone against an icy sea. The historical sailor depended upon other people. Upon the person who prepared clothing before departure. The sailor who remembered the entrance to a bay. The crew member who noticed failing coordination. The local knowledge that warned against a certain wind. The hands that lowered the sail before the rocks came too close. Fearlessness was never enough. Preparation mattered. Memory mattered. Restraint mattered. The sea remained stronger than the ship. Morning reaches the sheltered coast. The vessel rests near shore, its wood dark with water. Clothing hangs beside the controlled fire and releases moisture slowly into the air. Some crew members sleep. Others inspect rope, sailcloth, hull, provisions, and the equipment weakened during the night. Beyond the headland, the open sea is becoming visible. Daylight does not make departure automatic. The crew watches the wind. They study the clouds and the movement of water outside the inlet. If the conditions remain wrong, they wait. Waiting is not failure. Turning back is not cowardice. A destination has no value to a crew that does not survive the journey. They did not conquer the northern sea. They learned to move through it without forgetting what a human body could endure. The Vikings did not make the sea warm. They learned how to lose heat slowly enough to survive it. And on the coldest voyages, that difference was everything.